Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi à tous. It's funny how the moment that I start typing, I can't talk at the same time. I'm such a man. Après-midi à tous. Good afternoon, all. Bonjour Annick, ça va? Et bon, je vais maintenant me retourner sur mon. There we go. Là, je me vois parfait. Bon après-midi à tous. Good afternoon, everybody. We got a few minutes before we start, so I'll just give some time for everybody to those who are. What am I looking for here? Oof, that's not nice. Oof, really? That small? Sorry. Seeing today, I was just looking for some of my own images here of self-portrait that I've shot over the years, and I'm just looking at them, and they're pretty tiny. As far as oh, maybe not. Yeah, maybe so. Definitely. Okay. Okay. So I hope everybody's having taking care of themselves and taking care of those around them. Participants. Let's see here. We'll pop this out. Ça va bien, Nick, ça va bien. On avance là maintenant. J'ai fait ma deuxième cours en ligne pour Gosselin ce matin, qui était sur l'art de la lumière. Et puis hier, c'était survol sur Lightroom. Euh, Fait que ça commence. On est supposé de retourner au travail pour la semaine du 11 mai. On verra qu'est-ce que ça donne la semaine prochaine aussi, à moins que ça change encore. I was just saying, those of you who are here with me, um, we got news this week that we'll be reopening our stores, Gosselin Photo, around the province the week of the 11th of May, if things don't change. So far, it's slated for the week of the 11th of May, which will be nice to get back to. I'm not going to say the new norm, because I really hate that term. I think that's really a marketing ploy to or a spin off of you know how. But I hope you were all able to. I have a little bit of catching up to do with posting my episodes on my website. C'est-à-dire que cette semaine, ça a été assez occupé avec les nouvelles. La nouvelle, maintenant qu'on a commencé à donner les cours en ligne chez Gosselin, ça a pris un peu plus de mon temps que j'avais pensé. Excusez, mais quand même, j'essaie de me rattraper dans tout pour la chaîne et tout. Ça se peut aussi que les heures et les nombres de fois que je vais être capable de faire des livecasts comme ça ici, des diffusions en direct comme ça, va peut-être diminuer, puis aussi changer d'heure, vu qu'on va retourner au bureau la semaine du 11 mai. So, I just don't want I want everybody to know that the frequency and the time that I continue doing, because I want to continue doing these live feeds even when we start opening up the stores and I end up start going back to work and stuff like that. Um, it's just that things I might have to adjust the way I'm diffuse, not diffuse, but I'm streaming these particular episodes. I want to continue doing that. Don't forget, if you can, please, if you enjoyed the episode today or other episodes that you might have seen earlier, please, by all means, click on the like, or if not, you can always dislike. the episodes, but it will give me a better feedback of uh, what what you guys are looking for as far as photography goes in bettering your own photography, and at the same time, it'll give me a little bit more of a, how do I say, a focus as how I will continue uploading and streaming these live casts, these live webcasts on photography. It's something that I've been planning to do since last summer. I find that the live cast for me, it's given me the chance to. It's actually motivated me more, forced me more to present material like this on photography and help those who need a little bit of guidance, photography wise, and can't necessarily always come down to Montreal and follow one of my classes or one of my excursions. To just give you an example, yesterday I did my my group class for Gosselin, and there was a gentleman who was connected from Rimouski. It's not too close to any of the 4 stores that are open right now as far as Gosselin, but I didn't think that as far as demand or that we would go as far as that, but it looks like it's pretty good. So, hi Uncle Bob, I see you there. How are you? I hope you're going to enjoy this episode. As I was telling, and I keep forgetting to do this at the end of the videos, but if you get a chance on my YouTube, by all means, please, if you like the episode, please like the episode. Hi Richard, welcome back. Also, if you have any suggestions, please use the comments as per. Bonjour Karine. Use the comments of each of the episodes if you have questions or if you have comments on how I can give you more information or, as we say, améliorer la façon que je procède. C'est-à-dire que, justement, j'ai vu que maintenant je suis régulièrement sur YouTube, j'ai parti ma chaîne est vraiment partie maintenant. C'est drôle de voir à quel point que ça s'en va chercher du monde. Comme hier, justement, j'avais quelqu'un qui a pris le cours de survol sur Lightroom qui est fourni par Gosselin. Puis j'avais justement un monsieur qui venait de Rimouski. Et puis c'est drôle de voir, mais moi je parle devant mon portable. Je vois pas les gens que je suis en train de fournir l'information. C'est pas aussi évident que d'avoir des gens en avant de moi dans une salle de cours. Hi Mark, welcome back for another episode of Photography with me. And today, actually I think we're pretty good here. We've got 8 people connected, 8 concurrent viewers. That's nice. Thank you all for your support. And in the chat, we've got 5 people. Again, si vous pouvez, n'oubliez pas, j'apprécierais beaucoup si vous pouvez soit liker ou pas, comme vous voulez, ou m'envoyer des commentaires en fonction de chacun de mes épisodes. Comment améliorer, how to make it better, what information you would like more of. Again, here we'll start. It's 3:30. So here, now that we've started, I'm going to say. I just forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say comments, likes. Please, if you can, also join or subscribe to the channel if you can. At least that way, the moment that I post it to my YouTube for future episodes, you'll automatically get You'll automatically get notifications through the YouTube that will be able to tell you when the next episode comes up. For this week, we're still home this week, so I'm going to be continuing the Monday, the Wednesday, the Friday, and the Saturday episodes, unless my hours change versus what I'm doing with Gosselin on their online trainings. But for now, so far the schedule is my trainings have been done. I did one yesterday, one today. My next one's coming up, I believe, will be the week of the 11th. I'll have 3 more trainings from Gosselin. For those episodes, or I should say, for those are group classes that are really you have to go to the Gosselin website and subscribe there. I think the classes are $75 for 2 hours. C'est-à-dire que les cours que maintenant que je fais en ligne pour Gosselin, il faut aller sur le site de Gosselin pour voir l'horaire, le calendrier. J'ai fait mes 2 cette semaine, hier et ce matin. Justement, mes prochains cours qui vont venir, que je vais être présenteur, formateur en tant que tel. Ça va être de la semaine du 11. Je pense que j'en ai 3 ou 4 cette semaine-là. Et puis, pour ça, il faut inscrire par le site de Gosselin. Me semble, si je me rappelle bien, c'est 75$ pour des séances de 2 heures en ligne. Vous devez aussi, j'ai eu un commentaire aujourd'hui qu'une cliente ne savait pas, mais pour Gosselin, maintenant, les cours en ligne sont diffusés par l'application Zoom ou le site web de Zoom. Fait que si vous avez besoin de ça pour être capable d'interagir directement avec moi. Avec ma chaîne YouTube en tant que telle, c'est pas mal one way, à part du chat. Si vous avez des questions aujourd'hui, s'il vous plaît, utilisez le chat pour être capable de poser vos questions. Sinon, vous pouvez toujours, par après, dans les commentaires, poser d'autres questions. Je reçois des notifications quand il y a des questionnements, des questions qui sont envoyées par YouTube. So please, if you can, use the comment section here in my YouTube feed, my YouTube channel, to be able to ask questions. And if not, please comment on if you see them later at a later time, the videos or whatever, comment them. I still get notifications from YouTube when I have comments that are sent out through the channel itself. So today we're here to talk about our next weekly challenge. And following the poll that I launched on the Facebook group, the next in line was self-portrait. C'est-à-dire que la prochaine défi hebdomadaire pour cette semaine, puis justement, c'est pour le vendredi prochain. Vous avez toute une semaine pour travailler là-dessus. Je t'avoue que je suis tellement mauvais. Moi, ma semaine était assez quand même chargée avec la job et tout, que j'ai pas eu la chance encore de me rattraper. Fait que moi, je suis justement deux défis en retard. Fait que je vais toutes les rattraper, essayer de les rattraper cette semaine avant que le travail commence. Mais cette semaine, c'est l'autoportrait. Et puis justement, j'ai été chercher quelques liens sur l'Internet, comme d'habitude. J'ai été chercher quelques articles que j'ai déjà lus en temps les différents sujets que je lance en fonction des défis. Parce que quand même, il y a beaucoup d'informations, de ressources et matériel sur la photographie en tant que telle, sur l'Internet. C'est juste de savoir lesquels qui sont vraiment pas concurrents, mais qui sont vraiment concrets. Mais il y a quand même beaucoup d'informations sur le réseau, sur l'Internet en tant que tel. So, today we're going to be talking about self-portraits, a little bit of background on self-portraits. So for those of you who, self-portrait is not necessarily a selfie, okay? Selfie is probably a derivative of self-portrait, yes. I mean, it's a picture of yourself, who you are, the photographer. But self-portrait, there's a lot more planning, there's a lot more organization, and there's a lot more... the self-portrait in itself really is a planned portrait by the photographer himself, of himself or herself. And as a matter of fact, just to give you an example, I have an example of one of the very first portraits was taken of himself by Robert Cornelius in 1839, which is I specifically went to see how to pronounce the word, and now I've forgotten how to pronounce the word. But in this particular case, if you look here, this is a daguerreotype. Okay, daguerreotype, if that is the right way to pronounce the word, you know what? The word itself is, yes, a daguerreotype. Okay? C'est-à-dire que cette photo-là, c'est une des premières autoportraits qui est documenté en tant que tel. Parce que l'autoportrait en tant que tel, ça peut être une peinture, ça peut être un peintre, je veux dire, une sculpture, puis aussi ça suivi avec la photographie. Mais en photographie, ça c'est une des premières autoportraits qui a été pris dans des années 1839, qui est un photographe de Robert Cornelius, qui était he was a chemist and alchemist. Okay, or a chemist and a metallurgist. Metallurgist. So using using the different well, at the time photography was basically done on metal plates and using different chemicals, different acids to etch the metal surfaces with the image that was being projected onto it. Okay, so here, this is just to give you an example of the very first self-portrait. C'est le premier exemple d'un autoportrait. C'est quand même intéressant de voir la qualité dans le temps. Excusez, j'espère que vous n'avez pas entendu ça. Mais justement, ça, c'en est une des premières autoportraits. Le portrait en tant que tel, c'est vraiment de prendre le portrait de soi-même, mais que ça soit en fonction de l'environnement de repos, ou genre exemple, moi, qu'est-ce que j'aime bien faire en portrait, c'est de la portrait un portrait environnemental or environmental portrait, which is basically depicting the subject could be in their rest environment, at rest, in the environment of their work, hobbies. Basically, it can be any. But self-portrait is the fact that I'm taking my own portrait. I'm not having somebody else do the portrait for me. Okay, and typically, what we like to see in a self-portrait is compared to a selfie. Understand that a selfie is a moment in my life that I want to record. It's not a planned situation. It's not a posed. It's not typically a posed picture. It's really, I'm here, I'm there. Bing, this is the shot that I take, and a selfie basically is always shot with either a phone or a tablet. C'est-à-dire que la différence entre un autoportrait puis un selfie, c'est plutôt que le selfie, elle est prise principalement avec un cellulaire ou avec un tablette ou avec un webcam sur votre ordinateur. C'est pas pris en travers d'un appareil photo en tant que tel, où ce que vous avez la mise au point, l'exposition et tout. Tandis que le selfie, c'est plutôt un instantané de moi, de soi, dans le moment, ou à le moment où ce que la photo a été prise, dans la situation où ce que le sujet était. Un autoportrait, c'est réellement de planifier justement une situation ou un lieu de peut-être où ce que le sujet est plus confortable en tant que tel. Et puis, c'est justement une histoire de soi-même dans ces moments ou peut-être ces lieux communs. Si j'ai aussi pour vous montrer d'autres exemples de autoportraits, to show you some other photographers who are very popular with self-portrait. I have here, if you look right here, you'll see Man Ray, okay, who's an American visual artist. He died in 1976. He died in Paris, France. And if you look at some of his images, his self-portraits here, you'll see that, you know, they're very expressive. They're very, here's another one, Man Ray. You know, it's lighting, it's exposure, it's pose, it's expression. We want to see expression when we talk about self-portrait, more than just the moment where the photographer, or I should say, where the subject is. You know, it's extremely artistic. If we look here, okay, hold on, make this bigger a bit more. You know, in this particular image here, it's kind of, it's kind of freaky when you look at it. C'est-à-dire que tu sais, c'est vraiment c'est de la portraiture posée en utilisant certains éléments de l'extérieur pour fournir l'histoire en tant que telle du sujet. Une seconde, on va retourner ici. D'autres exemples ici, tu sais, portrait, tiens, regarde celui-là. Tu sais, ça c'est un autre, voyons. Another example here of where is he? Here we go. I mean, here's a nice shot. Here's a fantastic shot, and actually, it's shot in negative, or there's a slight. Actually, you could also call this well, what did I call it before? Duotope. I mean, just look at how the images of him himself manipulating, in this particular case, a large format camera, and the story that we get out of this is basically it's a photographer. We also have another photographer who's very popular with surreal. He's a surrealist photographer, and Claude Kahn, who is very much into his own self-portraits. As you can see here. Also, to say that self-portrait doesn't take much equipment as per se. I mean, one light. Here we have exactly an example of butterfly lighting. You can see under his nose the whatchamacallit, the shadow under his nose to create the butterfly. So here, I mean, it's a very simple minimalist portraiture of the photographer himself. If we look at some more here, that's a small one. I picked the wrong one. Hold on. Let's see if we have a better one of that. Here we go. There we go. So here we have the photographer and the reflection in the mirror. So you can use all kinds of extra and shooting. The self-portrait using reflections in mirrors, reflections in windows. Actually, one of my favorites personally, since she passed away in 2009, Vivian Mayer and she was one of the, and we're talking she was born in the 40s or the 50s, an American photographer, and her photography was only really found after she passed away by family members. And if you look here, 1954, most of the photos that Vivian Mayer shot, la plupart des photos que Vivian Mayer a tirées vont toujours avoir la réflexion quelque part d'elle dans la photo en tant. Ce n'est pas des doubles expositions, des multi-expositions, c'est réellement elle dans la réflexion de l'environnement de la photo en tant que telle. Si on regarde ici, un autre exemple, ici, vous avez la garage en arrière, vous avez la boutique de musique ou de disque. Et puis, vous avez sa réflexion ici dans l'image. Je trouve que ces photos à elle sont tellement intéressantes. Puis, tu sais, des fois, on ne sait pas où exactement de regarder, mais on voit tellement que est en train de regarder justement l'image qu'elle voit dans la fenêtre. Puis même ici, vous avez une double réflexion parce que, je veux dire, une double image d'elle. C'est-à-dire que si vous regardez, vous avez la réflexion en temps de la fenêtre de où ce qu'elle regarde. Puis plus loin, il y a comme ça a l'air d'avoir un miroir où, puis on voit vraiment la composition réelle plus loin dans la photo. Encore un autre d'elle. Puis elle utilisait seulement un appareil photo, ils appellent ça un TLR, Twin Lens Reflex. Vivian Mayer used one sole camera, which was a twin lens reflex, and I believe it was a Raleigh, in the time where you'd look through the top lens and the picture would be taken through the bottom lens. That's the only one, and all of her photos are square because that's what that particular camera did. Was it was a 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 film image. So I mean here and Vivian Mayer was all natural light. I mean there isn't any image in her collection of over 180,000 photos that have been found so far where she hasn't used natural light. And again, this is just an image of her reflected in the window that she's looking through to see the what's behind her, the building behind her. You can use in self-portrait. It could be as much as a well, not contre-jour, a silhouette, a shadow of oneself. But then again, if you look down here, you can see that she's also in the dome, not the dome, but the metal surface here in this, I don't know what that would be, but still in the metal surface of this column here. And here we go. Here's another image of her, obviously in the reflection of a mirror. And this is a mirror. This is most likely a shaded window with a reflective coating on it. And I mean, listen, she is on our side of the window, and she's shooting the image that she's shooting with the child and the background behind. So, see, self-portrait in itself it's a representation of the photographer where they're most comfortable, where they are, be it at work, be it in during their pastime. In this particular case, Vivian Mayer was very much a street photographer. She liked to take her walks with the kids that she guarded as a nanny, and like I said, to what point, self-portrait is always a mix of still life, portraiture. You can use whatever elements you think that portray more of yourself. I'll give you an example here. I went through some of my images earlier this morning just to see, because over the years I've taken some of my own self-portraits. I just want to find, hold on just a sec. So here, give me a second. Yeah, this is a good one. So here's a self-portrait of mine. Well, this is going back at least 15 years or so. But when I had got my 15, actually we're 2020. This is 20 years ago. When I had my first telescope and we were out one of our first excursions watching the stars. So here's a picture of me doing what I enjoyed doing at the time, and I still do astronomy myself. Ça, c'est une photo que j'ai pris v'là 20 ans de soi-même avec mon télescope pour regarder les étoiles puis le ciel de nuit en tant que tel. Un autre exemple que j'ai de soi-même serait ça, c'est une séance de photos que j'ai voilà. Ça, c'est des portraits que j'ai pris. Ça, il y a une grande histoire là-dessus. C'est la foulard qui qui était le grand... pour ceux qui me connaissent pas, je suis très grand fan de... Je sais pas si vous connaissez Doctor Who. C'est un caractère, c'est un personnage, justement, fictif, qui voyage dans le temps. Et puis, il y a une des séries, une des saisons où ce que le docteur en tant que tel avait cette grand foulard-là. Et l'histoire contre ça, c'était que à un moment donné, ma femme m'a demandé qu'est-ce que je voulais pour Noël. Fait que j'avais marqué sur ma liste le foulard de Doctor Who. Et puis, en passant que je l'aurais jamais. Et ma femme a pris ça un pas plus loin encore, c'est que elle a décidé de tricoter le foulard au lieu de l'acheter sur l'internet. So here's self-portraits of myself. I was so proud of this scarf because, my wife Sarah, one year had come to me and asked me. She says, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I says, "You know what? And Christmas lists. I mean, for me, I just if I hate making Christmas lists because typically you don't necessarily get what you ask for and whatever. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna put on the list what I probably would never in my life receive. And in this particular time, I put the Doctor Who's scarf. And now this scarf is 12 feet long. Okay, that's why it's wrapped around my head at least once. And there were reasons why there were the colors and the way they were placed. But my wife decided to go one step further. And instead of purchasing the scarf on the internet, which would have probably cost her somewhere between $60 and $70, she decided to actually knit me the scarf. It took 4.5 months or 3.5 months for her to actually finish the scarf because I actually helped her put the tassels on. But this is basically, and the pen is supposed to be my Doctor Who's sonic screwdriver. So anyways, so these were a couple of portraits that I shot myself with a buddy of mine kind of gave me a hand with it, if I'm not mistaken, too. But here's an example of a self-portrait of myself at the time. Other than that, I've got, let me see here. This is another one this one here, I used my Minolta. So one day I'd gone out with my photo club, and this was my first 4x5 camera, which is a Graflex. And again, we're using just normal, natural lighting. But to be honest with you, the one that the Doctor Who scarf, that was shot in a studio with a buddy of mine. But this one over here was shot out in the field. We were at one of the waterfalls up north, and this here was an image that I shot to commemorate my Graflex 4x5 journalist camera. And then I've got, so these ones here are images that I shot over the years. Here's another one that I shot when I had my, I don't know if it's going to be big enough. Yes, it will. So this one here was in the 2004, I believe it was 2004, 2005, when I was constructing telescope mirrors. I used to bake glass to make large telescope mirrors. This one was a telescope that I haven't finished yet. I'd put it on the side for so long now. But this was a 12.5-inch diameter or 12-inch diameter telescope, and it was a self-portrait that I did. When I was working in my shop, I have one here. Mind you, this one, I'm not sure we'll be able to see it because it seems that I rendered it rather small, but this is an example here. Here's another one. This one here, I did use a flash. This was a flash on my camera. I had used the self-timer. Fait qu'ici, j'ai utilisé mon flash parce que quand même dans mon atelier ça c'est en passant, ça c'est le four où ce que je fabriquais mes plaques de verre pour les télescopes. Et puis justement, à cause de la base lumière, c'est du néon que j'ai dans cet atelier-là. Fait que j'ai utilisé mon flash sur l'appareil photo pour être capable d'éclaircir moi, soi-même, en bounce en passant. C'était pas direct. C'est quand même en bounce. On voit très bien que mon ombrage est un peu plus basse que la tête en tant que telle. So this was an image that I shot also in the workshop where I was cooking my glass for the telescopes. So I'm due for pretty much a new batch of self-portraits myself. So I'm going to spend the week with the kids this week and see what I can do as far as something that's a little bit more current to represent myself. Actually, here's another self-portrait of me actually working in that workshop. So if you look here, I was grinding the side of the glass. Again, this was a direct flash because you can actually see where the light's coming from with the silhouette here. But this was in the days. This was in 2004. This was in 2004 when I had gotten my first Minolta back, digital back, 35 millimeter. So basically, these are examples of what you can look for or try to attain in self-portrait. And really, you want to bring the character, you want to bring the person out. Yourself. It's not bringing the person, another subject, somebody else. It's really depicting yourself in whatever environment you want to create in the image that you're creating. But again, you still want to tell a story. Okay, Vivian Mayer. You could actually say Vivian Mayer, as far as self-portraits go, they're more in themselves closer to selfies than self-portraits because most of them were taken on the fly, wherever she was at the moment that she took them. But I just like the quality of her images. I like the quality of the light that she's using. There's a certain, patience in this particular instance. There's a certain amount of patience that's being used to find the proper light and find the proper images and the proper point of view. Other examples: Andy Warhol, primarily known for his graphic artist. Photography was part of his creative process. He did a lot of self-portraits using Polaroid. Instant Polaroid. So, as far as equipment goes, you can use as many lighting sources that you'd like. Don't forget that your story has to reflect yourself in whatever instant or moment that you're trying to depict in your image. So, like, in my case, I wouldn't be necessarily shooting. But then again, I might shoot myself here at my desk in my den, set up with all of my lighting that I have for these videos that I'm doing here over the last month and a half almost. And taking, shooting my self-portrait would be representing me in this particular. Well, mind you, there's a lot of a mess here, but in my environment, shooting these videos for you. Let me just see. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, we have a couple of questions here. Is it cheating if photographer does the setup but assistant presses déclencheur? Uncle Bob just sent 2. We're going to go take a look at that. Marc demande si c'est trichage, si le photographe fait le setup et qu'un assistant pèse sur le déclencheur. Je pourrais dire que dans le cas de ma photo de Doctor Who, vu que j'avais un assistant que lui déclenchait l'appareil photo parce que j'avais oublié justement qu'il y avait un retardateur sur l'appareil. Typiquement, un autoportrait, faut que le concept vienne du photographe lui-même. Est-ce que je vais... Comment je dirais ça? Est-ce que je vais taper ses doigts du photographe qui va demander son fils de peser sur le bouton? Pas nécessairement. Si la concept, si la construction de la photo en tant que telle soit fait par lui-même, c'est un autoportrait. d'avoir quelqu'un qui pèse sur le bouton, c'est la même chose que si j'avais un fil avec un déclencheur et que je le déclenchais moi-même ou que je le mettais en fonction d'un retardateur de 10 secondes ou de 2 secondes ou de 30 secondes pour qu'il prenne la photo en temps, pour que l'appareil photo déclenche au moment que je veux que la photo soit prise. Personnellement, Mark, what I was explaining was, Mark here asks, is it cheating if the photographer does the setup but the assistant presses the trigger? Listen, I'll be honest with you. The images that I just showed you now of Doctor Who, that's basically what it was. Is that I set myself up, I dressed myself, I placed myself, and I had a buddy of mine who, where we took the photo was their studio. Basically, he pressed the trigger. I believe I even set the camera up on his tripod. So I still set it up. The concept still came from me. Will I penalize somebody for if you have your son or your daughter press the button? Typically self-portrait though, because you're shooting yourself, your camera should be on a tripod. Not that it's being handheld by somebody else. Because then it becomes a kind of, it's no longer necessarily your perception of the image that you're reproducing. It's more hoping that the person shooting the photo comes out to what you expect it to be. Okay. Let me see. Androsky just sent 2. So let me take a quick look. Let me just hold on just a sec. Let me find my. I had a page open here. Yep. Let's go and take a look at our Facebook group. And here we have. Hold on just a sec. I don't see it. Wait a minute. How come? Oh, there it is. Oh, here we go. Beautiful. Uncle, that's a beautiful shot. I love it. Here's a beautiful self-portrait here. You know what? I'm going to even do better than that. I'm going to click on it. Here's the full-size image. Uncle shot this in 2012. Now this is a nice. I love this image, but a lot of people will ask me, and specifically when they take my excursions with me, how do I get the reflection? Understand that the way that Uncle Bob has placed himself in this image is he's adjusted himself to be able to get the best reflection possible, but at a certain there's also a certain amount of control of light that he used here to be able to get the reflection that he was looking for here. So, it's important that you look at your exposure, look at your meter. For certain reflections you might have to underexpose. For other reflections you might have to overexpose. It all depends on how much of the reflection behind you, the actual image in front of you, that you want to include in the image. I love this shot, Uncle. It's a beautiful shot. Here's another perfect shot. Okay, the image is not the whole surrounding. The image here is Uncle Bob holding his camera, taking his shot, and his exposure is on him, the reflection in the window. It's not necessarily all of what's represented behind in the window behind him. Okay? So, juste aujourd'hui, avec les appareils photo qu'on a aujourd'hui, c'est tellement facile parce que vous avez même, tu sais, ici, mon oncle Bob, il est assez habitué avec l'appareil photo puis l'objectif qu'il n'a pas besoin nécessairement d'aller chercher, regarder dans son appareil, soit sur l'écran de l'arrière ou le viseur en tant que tel. Je le connais, mon oncle Bob, il fait de photos plus longtemps que moi. Puis même moi, ça fait quelques années que avec certains objectifs, je sais déjà qu'est-ce que ça va me donner en fonction de cadrage. Fait que je sais exactement comment me placer. Souvent, on appelle ça aussi faire la photographie en fonction de l'hyperfocale. C'est une façon, je suis en train de tout monter une vidéo là-dessus, comment faire la mise au point manuelle et tout ça. Was the reflection in a pad? Et justement, ça c'est une réflexion dans une fenêtre de patio. tout à fait pris cette année. So, tu sais, à un moment donné, même ici, mon oncle Bob n'avait pas besoin de regarder dans son appareil photo, il voyait son réflexion dans la fenêtre en tant que telle. Mais encore, si vous voulez être un peu plus précise en fonction de cadrage et tout ça, vous pouvez toujours se lever votre genre de votre écran à l'extérieur et l'utiliser en fonction de viseur aussi pour mieux cadrer votre photo. Avec un certain connaissance, on s'habitue à nos équipements. On n'a pas besoin d'avoir ces guides-là. On sait déjà qu'est-ce que ça donne. Puis j'en connais beaucoup de photographes de quelques années qui savent déjà comment le faire et comment réussir à avoir qu'est-ce qu'ils veulent. So, again, reflections are fantastic when it comes to self-portrait. Please, by all means, go ahead. Let's see. Does anybody maybe? I'm actually finding a lot of because I'm in the process of scanning a lot of my old photos that are not digitized, and I'm starting to find a lot of work that I did in high school and did in senior elementary school. I'm just going to switch cameras again. Whoops. So this is to say that self-portrait is not as hard as it seems. It's very easy. A lot of the times you can just do it in the reflection of a window. You can do it on the reflective surface if you have a stainless steel facade of a building. A lot of the times, and sometimes, it's not even the fact that your image of you, it might be crystal clear, but you're shooting it through or on a surface, a reflective surface that you want maybe to keep some of that texture too. But the whole idea of self-portrait is to tell a story of yourself, be it where you are, be it where you work, be it where you relax. And like I said, if you need the help of listen, I've got 3 helpers over here who sometimes give me a hand when it comes to the shooting. Like my son when we did the macro of his Legos. So we're coming pretty much close to the end of our hour, a little bit early. If you have any other questions, please by all means, I'll give you guys a few minutes here on the chat. And I hope to see some interesting stuff. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the episode, please like the episode here after you've. Mark says his problem is focusing on the eye. Okay. In that particular case, when you say your eye focus is my problem, in reflections or just using the eye focus itself? I'll give Mark a second to answer. Now, a lot of the newer cameras today, and again, this is like I said earlier today too in my class of this morning. Now, we are a society where we pay more money to have more automatic functions, okay? But as I'm turning 50 this year, I can talk as much as I want about it because I think I'm pretty much a not a master on it, but I think that I've lived with it long enough that way before it ever became ADD or attention deficit syndrome. An automatic mode is never 100% perfect. Now, obviously, the more we pay for our cameras, the more these functions come out that automate the taking of the picture. But, using that function, eye focus, where the camera tries to find the eye and focus on the eye itself, if the eyes are turned away from the camera in any sense, sometimes, a lot of the times it won't see it. At that point, my best, if you're going to use autofocus, in my particular instance, I'm more capable, but I'm also more precise, I find, than my camera. And I mean, I have an A7 Mark III, which is the latest model of my camera, but I find that I'm more precise even using manual focus. But for those of you who are using AF or autofocus, pour ceux qui utilisent le mode automatique, en mode de mise au point, c'est-à-dire le AF versus le MF. Okay? Oui, certaines des boîtiers aujourd'hui vont avoir les fonctions de mise au point sur les yeux ou trouver la face ou quoi que ce soit. Mais ils peuvent avoir quand même un certain, on va dire, un déficit d'attention, dans le sens qu'il va manquer l'œil puis il va le chercher peut-être à côté de l'œil. Ou il ne voit pas tout à fait l'œil, fait qu'il va essayer de prendre la zone le plus près pour faire son mise au point. Dans ce temps-là, si vous utilisez le mode AF, dans ce temps-là, qu'est-ce que je fais surtout, c'est que je vais mettre sur le point centré de mon viseur. Je vais zoomer pour que l'œil apparaît plus gros. Je vais faire mon mise au point. Je vais peser à mi-course sur mon appareil. Je vais peser à mi-course pour faire mon mise au point. Et par après, je vais dézoomer. Alors, l'effet que je pèse à mi-course, lui, il verrouille le mise au point et l'exposition. Tout ce que j'ai fait, c'est que j'ai zoomé pour que le petit carré dans le milieu, ça va chercher l'œil où ce que je voulais que ça soit. Pas la sourcil, pas le pont du nez, pas le joue. Tu sais, what I do, and this is a technique that the dinosaurs like me used to use with the first autofocus cameras, and even in manual focus, is that, you know, another way of using what we call the hyperfocal focusing technique is that you zoom in so that your viewfinder covers more of the eye. If you're using a center spot or a whatever, if you're using a spot focus, I'm not talking about light here, I'm talking about focus. So use a spot focusing function. Zoom in. What happens when you zoom in is that you're magnifying the exact zone where you want to do your focus. So at that point, when you zoom in, focus on the eye, press halfway on your trigger, unzoom so that you can crop the way that you want, and after that, take your photo. Otherwise, if you're worried that, you know, you might let go of your autofocus, then fine. What you can do, and most of the cameras, a lot of the cameras today, what they have are on the side of your lens, you have your AF, MF. If not, you might have them on some camera bodies. You might have a dial here which has AF, MF, or SC, MF. Well, once you've done your autofocus here, put the lens or put the body on MF, your focus won't change. So now if you recrop, but you got to stay at the same distance. You cannot change the distance between you and your subject when you do that. Okay? So at that point, that's probably in my experience, that is the best way to do your autofocus or your manual focus in that case. I hope does that answer, Mark? You let me know. And actually, I'm doing a little video on manual focus and autofocus that I'll be putting up on the how to use them and how to control them, what different functions you can use with them, or when I would use them differently. To give you a little bit more of a precise, it would probably be like a 10 or 15 minute video in that case. Anybody have any other questions? Est-ce qu'il y en a d'autres questions que vous voulez que je réponde en temps de la mise au point, en temps de l'exposition? L'autoportrait, encore, c'est vraiment de conter l'histoire de soi-même dans son environnement ou le moment en tant que tel, si vous voulez. Mais un autoportrait, c'est vraiment une photo de soi-même. Good. hard to be in back and in front of the camera. Now, if that and that, well, it depends. If you're taking a shot like Uncle Bob shot here, um, it's not that hard. You do your focus, and then you basically all you do is you lower your camera so that we can see your face, and then we shoot. You just shoot the image as such. Um, what you're okay? Where I could see you having a lot of problems in this particular case is if you're using very large apertures. Okay, and again, understand something that the photographer versus Monsieur, Madame, tout le monde, the photographer anticipates his subject, he anticipates his environment, and he anticipates his light. Okay? So, all that being said, I'm prepared not, if I'm doing a self-portrait and I know I need a certain depth of field, I'm not going to use, example, on my fixed lens camera, my Fuji X100F, it opens up to an f2. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to use f2 if I know that I need at least 3 feet of depth of field. Okay? Because, and the reason for that is because, again, and I mentioned it when I did my episodes on the exposure triangle. Okay? For me, what's primordial to any one of my images, beyond a doubt, is my depth of field. I know exactly. I know more or less at what distances each of my apertures give me because I've practiced each of my apertures. So I know that if I'm at 3 feet from a window and I want to be in focus, I'm not going to use an f2 or an f1.5 a 1.2 because my lens opens up to 1.2. Right? So at that point, you choose your aperture in consequence of the type of photo. Now, in this particular instance here with this webcam, I can't get my background to be blurred. Why? Because I only have one particular aperture here, and it's the widest aperture that this lens has. And at this distance, which is from the camera, I'm close to 2 feet from the camera, and I'm close to 3 feet from the back wall. And the back wall is still as sharp, almost as sharp as me. Typically, if I were using actual cameras, so my 6500 over here with the 28 millimeter, which opens up at f2 at this distance here will put that, but that's a 20 millimeter lens. Okay, so when you say it's hard to be in back and in front of the camera, yes, there's a certain amount of practice that you just have. Being in front or back of the camera is not going to really make much of a difference. If it's on a tripod, it's fixed, and you know exactly, and you put an X on the spot where you're going to stand or you're going to sit or whatever. So what you do there is, you know what? Grab your son, grab your daughter, grab your wife, put them on the chair, focus using a decent aperture. When I say a decent aperture could be an f4, an f5.6, an f8. Okay, because you know that you have to cover a certain amount of space. Once the focus is done, leave it there. Now replace yourself with your assistant, or it could be a tutu, a teddy bear, replacing you. Again, photography is not just planting the camera, planting your subject, and taking a picture. You have to do a certain amount of planning, of organizing. Otherwise, it's just an instant. It's an instant image, right? Again, you have to be able to tell a concrete story. Faut absolument que vous contez une histoire. Puis pour être capable de conter une histoire concrète, faut avoir un certain planification. Alors, on parle ici dans la texte, pas de la texte, mais je veux dire la contexte de l'imagerie posée. Fait que c'est sûr et certain, faut que je me prépare en fonction de ça. Si je suis en train de me prendre parce que je suis en train de visiter le vieux Montréal sur la rue Saint-Paul, comme mon oncle Bob a fait avec son réflexion à lui, c'est sûr et certain, après quarantaine d'années de photographie, je sais quoi faire pour aller chercher ça, puis je prends le temps que ça prend pour réussir la photo. I notice so I think there's a problem with, there we go, we're back to green again. Warning, yeah, I know. What is this here? I hope it came back. I'm gonna bring back my screen. Thank you very much. OK, so, c'est-à-dire que dans ce temps, tu sais, on anticipe toujours notre sujet et l'environnement de où ce qu'on est pour prendre la photo de notre sujet. OK? Fait que, je t'avoue qu'il y a toujours un certain planification, organisation qu'on doit faire en photographie en fonction du photographe lui-même. Encore, comme mon oncle Bob, écoute, mon oncle Bob, il a quand même une bonne 10 ans, 15 ans au-dessus de moi en photographie. Et puis, justement, ça m'a pris beaucoup, beaucoup de temps avant que je réussisse à être à le niveau de photographie de mon oncle Bob. Moi, ça fait peut-être, je te dirais là, honnêtement, peut-être dans les dernières dizaines d'années. Dizaines. Vraiment, là. Parce qu'avant, quand même, je m'enfonçais dans le mur avec la photographie quand même. Parce que je pratiquais pas assez. Que j'utilise en fonction de la photographie, c'est parce que je les ai pratiquées. Fait que ça a devenu une automatique. OK. Sorry about that, guys. Ça a l'air que l'Internet est plus usé dans ces temps-là de plus en plus. Et ben, malgré que j'étais avec Belle, puis Belle, c'est pas tout le temps le plus stable en fonction d'Internet en tant que tel. Here we go. Annick, pas facile les sorties photos avec toi. Pas vrai. On apprend beaucoup. Je manque de pratique. Merci AJ pour cet épisode toujours intéressant. Bon, ben, je vous souhaite tous une belle après-midi. Merci beaucoup. J'ai hâte à voir les photos qui vont être postées sur le groupe. I want to thank everybody for your support. Thank you for following me. Sometimes I know I come off sometimes a little, crude or a little bit, but it's because I understand that there are so many people out there who want and you have to be your worst judge. You have to, when you produce, you got to produce your best of your best of your best of your best work. Okay, that's how your photography evolves. Okay, the more you put constraints on yourself, as far as quality goes, as far as storytelling goes, as far as the more you will produce better images. Okay, and you know what? You don't have to necessarily. I do. I'm a big printer. Okay, I wait until I come up to I get a quality of image where I can do a 12 by 18, a 16 by 24, or a 24 by 36. Okay, because that in itself will also help you really focus on quality, on focus, on including or excluding certain elements in your image. Because the more that you start cropping, the more quality you're losing in the image itself. Don't forget that. You're cutting out pixels. N'oubliez pas ça, là. Okay? C'est bien beau de dire, bon, ben, je peux cropper ça par après. Mais si vous croppez trop, vous perdez juste la qualité en fonction de pixels. In the meantime, I'm going to get off my soapbox here. I appreciate again your time for following and for listening to me and I your support with the group. The group I love the group. I will be spending more time on answering questions in the group too. But if you need to reach me, you can also find me at aj at andrew-james.ca. Sorry, I kind of mixed my languages there. aj at andrew-james.ca. AJ commercial andrew-james.ca. You can get me at my website. You can get me on Facebook Messenger. I've been answering some people through Zoom, okay, doing private one-on-one sessions with people if they need. So if you need explanations more precisely on a particular aspect, or si vous avez besoin un peu plus d'aide sur certains aspects de la photographie, on peut toujours faire quelque chose avec Zoom. Je suis en train de devenir très, très habile avec Zoom en tant que tel. Et puis c'est ça, fait que je vous souhaite un très bon samedi, une très belle fin de semaine. Le météo aujourd'hui, c'est fantastique. Pour faire la photographie, justement, allez prendre votre marche. Gardez toujours la distance de 2 mètres entre vous et les gens alentour de vous. Today's a beautiful day. I was out for a few minutes there with the kids. They're getting ready to do some kind of a balloon fight outside, water balloon fight. So it's a beautiful weekend. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be seeing you back here on Monday, this Monday, the 4th. Yeah, it'll be the 4th at 3:30 for another episode of Photography with me, and the subject will be, Speedlight Flash, or otherwise known as Flash Cobra. Je vais expliquer un peu comment utiliser votre flash en tant que tel, le plus possible dans une heure. Là. And then Wednesday, I had another subject for Wednesday, and I cannot remember right now, but I'll start putting out more and more subjects and episodes in advance so that you can all be notified further in advance. Thank you very much. If you like the episode, please like it. If you have comments, whether it be comments on how I can make it better, on subjects that you want me to add, please use the comment section, s'il vous plaît. Si vous avez aimé l'épisode d'aujourd'hui, merci beaucoup en avance. Et puis, si vous avez des commentaires, s'il vous plaît aussi, notez les commentaires dans la description du épisode sur mon YouTube en tant que tel. Merci beaucoup à tous. Je te souhaite une bonne fin de semaine. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon. Right back here on Monday. Thank you.